My watch said one after, and I don't want to start late. Appreciate everybody getting here early this morning. I hope traffic wasn't bad. It wasn't about 5 o'clock when I came down 85, but anyway, appreciate everybody showing up. If I could get the preacher from Douglas to ask a prayer for us, I'd appreciate it. 3. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, the word of the day is encouragement. So try to encourage somebody today. Tell them you appreciate them. Tell them you love them. And try to support them and encourage them in some way. Let's pray. God, we love you. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the precious gift of life. God, as always, the question is, what do we do with this precious life that you give us? I would submit this morning that we try to give as much of that life back to you as possible and use it for your honor and your glory and your purpose. Be with us as we do that this morning. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Dominic. Before members of the committee get nervous about the audience, they are not protesting anything. They are here for to learn about their capital and their ag committee. This is the Sigma Alpha sorority from ABAC. It's the only female ag sorority that I know of. Little different than Alpha Gamma Rho. So anyway, we appreciate y'all coming, and I hope you're going to ease over to the ag department about dinner time and eat a little dinner with us. But thank y'all for coming, and hope you learned something. This is your capital. Folks have heard me say that the governor or anybody sitting around this table owns 1 square inch more of this building than y'all do. So you make yourself at home. I hope you go to the gallery when we go in session and try to figure out how we know what we're doing, and sometimes we don't. But you are very welcome anytime. But thank y'all especially for coming to the ag meeting this morning so early. And good luck in school. And, several of us sitting around this table went to ABAC, and those that went there still think it's probably the best college in the state. One of the two best. All right. The other one is what we used to call that Cal College on the Hill in Athens. So anyway, thank y'all again for coming. Today we got Sam Pardue, who is a dean, and I'm going to get to that in just a minute. We have to, every even number year, either appoint or reappoint an ex officio to the Horse Equine Commission. And I hope all of y'all got an email with the bio of the people, of the person named Tom Curlin that we have gone through, talked to the horse people, and this is who they are wanting us to appoint as an ex officio. We sent that out early so y'all could at least read it, and if you got any questions about him, we'll try to answer it. But we have to do that every even numbered year, and the fellow that Boyd McLaughlin is who we appointed last time, and he chose not to do it again because of what all he's got going on at home, I think. So if anybody has any questions about Mr. Curlin, we'll let Chuck Williams answer them. But if not, I'd appreciate a motion and a second to appoint him. Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. All right, thank you. And we'll get a letter to him, a notification that he now has another job on top of what he does. Before I get into Dean Pardue, I don't know, I guess y'all all got an email from Chuck about Scott Angle's wife. We started bringing the dean in several years ago to bring us up to date on what's going on at the College of Ag, and Scott always came, and I don't know how many of y'all were ever around Scott and Teresa, but if there was ever a dedicated husband, it was Scott Angle. And Mr. Teresa passed away last week, or this week, from complications from Alzheimer's, and he took care of her like you're supposed to take care of people. And if we get a chance, say a little prayer for Scott and send him a card. I think you got the address, don't you? Somebody did. Um, but anyway, keep Scott in your prayers. I hope you got an email from us about the new dean of the vet school. Her name is Lisa Nolan. She is from Iowa State, a graduate of UGA Vet School, and what now? Oh, Valdosta. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize it's Valdosta State too. But we are proud to have her back to Georgia, and I think she will do fine. I know all of us didn't like EPA's WOTUS rule, and I hope what President Trump has started will go on and finish up getting rid of that rule. Y'all all know how bad it was for agriculture anyway. So he has started the process of doing away with the rule that got passed by no congressional vote. So anyway, we appreciate that. So without anything else in the way, in 2 weeks you will have been here a year, right?
Yes, sir.
Dean? Dean Pardue is from North Carolina State, and I got to tell you, and Terry can back me up, between him and Jerry Moorhead, South Campus is back on the map at the University of Georgia, and ag research and experiment stations, and we're proud to have you today to bring us up to date on what you're doing at the college or at Tifton or Griffin or whatever experiment station you want to talk about or whatever you want to talk about. So, Dean, welcome to your ag committee.
I know it was about a year ago in this building that I met a number of you. It has been a great year. And I don't know, Mr. Chairman, if you can get the projector.
You don't want me to.
And it is not my intent to paralyze you by death by PowerPoint. Now I want you to, at any point in time, interrupt if there's a question that you have. And I'll try to move through these fairly quickly because I know that you've got a pretty busy schedule. I apologize to the folks over here. You're probably going to have a stiff neck or you might want to turn around. And ladies, I apologize because my back is going to be to you. I'll try not to do that too terribly often. If this doesn't work, we can either do Broadway show tunes or I can do shadow puppets. But, there we go. Something's happening. All right. Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity, and I'll try to give you a little bit of an overview. I will not, deal with everything, and there is some color issues with the projector. Normally, the shield at the University of Georgia is not green, although green's a pretty color. But we'll work on that. This just shows you the impact of the college across the state, and I realize that the print's too small for you to see that, but I wanted to get a sense of the geographic footprint that the college is responsible for. We're all the way in the north and the south and the east and the west. And there is a provision that we have made a request for some maintenance and operational money. And the reason behind that is the square footage that those facilities require us to take care of. And anything that you might be able to do on our behalf in that regard would be greatly appreciated. My mother told me to be humble, but I need to brag. These are our faculty members in the College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences who for 9 out of the 16 years at the University of Georgia have been named Inventor of the Year. And those men and women are the ones that have made tremendous impacts in Georgia helping farmers stay on the land to be profitable whenever it's possible. And I recognize that with certain commodity prices, that is not always possible. But I did want to share with those. And they run the gamut from blueberries to turf grass to ornamentals, soybeans. We have a phenomenal group of faculty in our research and extension programs. And this is just one example. I could show you a lot of other slides, but to me, I'm really proud of this particular slide, and not because I'm wearing a peanut tie today. But I want you to look at the yields that have occurred, increases in the past few decades. Phenomenal increases. That's because of the research and the outreach that the college has been able to provide. Our plant breeders who develop new varieties, our agronomists who learn how to produce and grow those crops in a much better way. Our 4-H programs are second to none in the country. We impact the lives of nearly 200,000 young Georgians every year. And they are diverse in their backgrounds, where they come from rural, from urban areas. And many of you, I hope, had 4-H in your background. The lessons and the characteristics that you develop in that period of time, I think, provides a lifelong basis for not only a successful career, but personally and professionally. This is where our money comes from, and I don't know why it says category, because it didn't last night, but those green ones are state appropriated funds. So while I'm here, I'm going to thank you for those. I did change the color, but I didn't change the text. But everywhere you see category name, that is state of Georgia funding that either comes to the experiment station, to cooperative extension, or through the A budget, which supports Dr. Joe Broder's program in academic affairs. And if you were to break it down by mission, it is not an insignificant enterprise, and we try to be really good stewards of the funds that you and the federal government and that our faculty get. On that previous slide, $53 million last year in sponsored research that our faculty get grants. And so we try to leverage the resources that you provide us, and credit goes to Bob Schulstad and his staff to encourage that kind of output. Highest, I think, sponsored programs we had in the history of the college. We benefited from some special bond funding. Most recently, the Rock Eagle Cabins last year. We do have a request this year for $5 million small cap to help renovate the Poultry Science Research Farm. You can see some other areas that we benefited from. And that building there in the lower right-hand panel is the food pick building in Griffin that we dedicated last month. Well, I guess it's the month before last now that we are in March. Have great hopes for that facility to help take ideas and concepts that Georgian entrepreneurs have to develop that to where they can actually produce a product. And there's some great stories. High Road Craft Ice Cream started as a project in somebody's kitchen. They now have sales in the millions of dollars and employ a number of people. And that's just one example of how you take a really good idea and a really good product, move it into the marketplace. And we're hoping that Food Pick will be that incubator to do that. And on my screen they're red, but they are green, but we'll just go on with that. This is the number of tenure-track faculty in the college, and I really wasn't aware. I've been here a year, but we're down almost a third over the past roughly 20 years. And a lot of that has to do clearly with some budgetary challenges, as well as a number of colleges leaving our college to start another college. So that is not all related to budget cuts, but we're quite a bit smaller than we were. We're a little bit over 310 back in '98, and today, tenure track and people who are on track for tenure, a little bit over 210. So we're down almost 100 faculty in that period of time. On the county agent side, way back, we had close to 500 agents. We will never, ever have 500 county agents again. And Laura Perry Johnson would be here, but she is searching for, she's chairing the search committee for a new associate dean for research, so she sends her apologies. But you can see the transition that we have, and we're back up now at about 302. And if you talk to Laura, we're not far off from the sweet spot on that she thinks is the optimal amount. Few more in certain areas of the state, obviously. So again, we've seen some transitional effects on agent numbers as well. Undergraduates, and I'll tell you why. Go ahead and look at this. In the college, 2010, you'll see that we were almost up to 1,800, and then you see this drop. Well, part of that is fact in 2012, the ag engineering program in the college was pulled out to create the College of Engineering at the University of Georgia. And that's not the first time that's happened. In fact, 6 times in the history of the college, a group has been pulled out to create another school or another college. And quite frankly, as a grad student of mine who was from Jamaica, he said, if everybody born in Jamaica came back to Jamaica, the island would sink. If everybody who started out in the College of Ag came back to the College of Ag, we'd be bigger than Franklin. I kind of like the size we have in many ways. If you look at it a little bit more detail, 2011, 2012, you saw that big drop. Again, that's related to ag engineering being pulled out. And we've kind of stabilized. We're around that 1,400, 1,450 undergrad population. Real bright spot is the growth of the graduate programs. We're up over about almost 45% in the past 20 years in the number of graduate students. And graduate students, I think, are important for this reason. They are the ones that are going to be entrepreneurial. They're going to create new information and new technology, and I'm confident they'll have a positive impact on the state of Georgia in particular. If you compare that to the university's graduate students, yes, they have grown. There's over 7,000 at the university today, and they're up about 32%. But the college has actually grown its graduate programs to a greater degree than the university as a whole. I'll have to show this because Dr. Joe Broder is not here. Student credit hours have been increasing. In fact, it's up almost 50%, despite the fact that our student numbers as a whole have actually gone down. The reason that has occurred is that the college faculty are teaching courses that attract students from other colleges. And so we're actually growing our credit hours. And that is a good thing because the model that Georgia has for funding academic programs is based on student credit hours. If those increase, the allocation that comes from the provost will increase. If those contract, it can go the other way as well. So we've been very fortunate to grow our program. The gray bars are young ladies, the green bars are males. And this shows you a transition. I was talking to somebody earlier about different professions, and we've seen changes in the gender makeup. I tell people all the time, clearly I have a mother, I have a sister, I have a wife, and I have a daughter, and I'm all for access for women. I think it's great that we've seen this increase. I will be honest with you, I'm growing a little concerned about where the young men are. And that's a challenge for us, and we'll look at it. But back in '98, we had significantly more males in our undergraduate program than women. That is totally reversed today. Today in the College of Agriculture, nearly 2/3 of our undergraduates are females. And again, please do not go out saying that I have anything against women and access to education. I think it's wonderful. I do want to make sure if young men are interested, we figure out a way that they can participate. Very similar at the university. This is UGA figures. Again, females are in the gray, males are in the green. And about 57% of the university is made up of females at the undergraduate level. So we're a little bit heavier skewed. Some of that's driven by a profound interest in veterinary medicine and animal science and the young ladies that are pursuing that degree. And that is an example of a vocation that within 2 generations, you've seen almost a total gender shift in that. At one time, veterinarians were the sons of farmers. Today, most veterinarians view themselves as caregivers, and we see a significant shift in gender there. In grad students, it's not quite as pronounced. We still have, you look back in the college back in '98, far more males, but slightly more females today, 52, 48. It's almost equivalent, but a little bit different picture than we see at the undergrad level. For the university has always been predominantly female at the graduate level, and that is a trend that you've seen. In fact, they're about 58% female. The University of Georgia and the College of Agriculture is becoming more and more diverse. Back in '98, the college was roughly 93% self-identified as Caucasian. We are down now at about 78%. The university has always been a little bit more diverse than the college as a whole. And the University of Georgia today, only about 70% of our undergraduates self-identify as being Caucasian. So we're a much more diverse college, much more diverse university that reflects the state of Georgia. I mentioned to you that we'd be bigger in Franklin because the college truly is the cradle of colleges and schools. And if you'll see those that are highlighted, the college is the second oldest college in the university. And I'm happy to say we were the first college to admit women. So there's a long history of encouraging diversity within the college. The first school or college that got pulled out was Warnell Forestry Natural Resources over 100 years ago. But they were part of us and then moved on. I can make an argument that Family Consumer Science, Vet Med, Environmental Design, Public Health, and most recently the College of Engineering all began as a program within the College of Agriculture. So where are we at with freshman applications? I know a number of you are interested in access and be happy to talk more about that. Remember back in 2012, it's when we had engineering. Next year, obviously those dropped, but we've been fairly stable, a little bit over 1,100 applicants. So that's encouraging. The number that we get in is certainly one that we'll need to work more on. The green bars indicate the percent of those who applied that were admitted, and the black bars show those that, if they were admitted, did they actually enroll and show up. And so last year it was a little bit low, below 50%. If you applied, you had basically a 1 in 2 shot to be admitted. And if you were admitted, slightly more than half actually showed up. The challenge is that if you see the academic profiles of these young people, they have many options. And some of them may choose to go wherever the best scholarship package may rely. But those are the stats on enrollments. Transfers. I will go ahead and tell you, it is far easier to get into the University of Georgia via transfer than it is a freshman. But do you see those numbers on transfers? It dropped by, my gosh, almost 2/3. Part of that is the result of when and I'm not criticizing the Board of Regents, I'm just stating a fact, when they transferred a lot of 2-year institutions to 4-year, we had some natural partners and pipelines to go somewhere for 2 years, then transfer to the College of Agriculture. Back in that transitional period of 13 and 14, you can see we went from 300 transfer applicants to a little bit over 100. And a lot of that is because, I get it, I used to be 18 or 19. If I get comfortable where I'm at, I might have found a young lady I had an interest in, joined a fraternity, had good roommates. I don't want to leave because it's a known entity. But that certainly has impacted our numbers. But I will tell you, I mentioned to you, it's easier to get in as a transfer. Last year, if you applied as a transfer student, nearly 80% of those students were admitted. And remember, only a little over 50% of those as freshmen that were admitted actually enrolled. We had almost 75%. So if you are a transfer and you apply and you get in, 3 out of 4 of you are coming. Very different than what we see on the freshman side. Because if you go somewhere for a year or 2 years and you apply, you're applying to a program that really resonates with you. And that's why I think we've seen much higher increases in enrollments. Well, here's the challenge. It's good that the state of Georgia is growing. It's growing, however, in some very discrete areas. 6 counties in the state of Georgia represent 2/3 of the entire population growth in Georgia. 6 counties. 5 in the metro Atlanta area, and then in Savannah. 82 counties in the state of Georgia lost population since 2010. So that growth in high school graduates that are feeding into the university are coming from different places today than they did 30, 40 years ago. But you see, we have over 100,000 high school graduates in 2017. That's up almost a quarter since 2005. So I don't remember a lot about economics, but I know supply and demand is one of those driving factors. So here are the application rates to the University of Georgia. An 84% increase in applications from 2005. Even though the population only grew, or the population of high school graduates grew 24%, applications grew 84%. And we now have approximately 23,000 applications to the University of Georgia. And at UGA, you apply to the university and not to the college. I am glad I am not in admissions. 23,000 applications. Imagine how, and I think this drives some of the admissions methodology. You've got to have some way to sift through those when you got 23,000. I'll be honest with you, I don't think they have time to sit and take 2 or 3 hours and ponder over an application. So they're looking at some key indicators that do not always predict success. So my wife's a Baptist minister. She said confession is good for the soul. I will confess I did not have an SAT, math or verbal, that was in that range. I will not ask for a show of hands. But this is the profile of an entering freshman last year. Over 600 on both math and verbal. Now, you probably could have added both of mine together, and I might have did a little better than that. But if you look at high school GPAs, that is a huge factor. If you had a 4.0 or higher, 93% of those applicants were admitted to the University of Georgia. How do you get a GPA over a 4.0? You got to take advanced placement classes. There is a disparity across the state of Georgia in availability and access to AP courses. So if I'm in a school that has a cafeteria list of AP classes, I guarantee you my GPA has the potential to be higher. If I've only got 4 in my school, I have less of an opportunity to get that. Those, probably shouldn't say this, but the less than 3.0, only about 5% of them got in. But I think they were 6'5", 385, and could run a 440. And, we're not recording this, are we? ACT's very same thing. The higher the ACT, the more likely you're going to be accepted. I mean, that's just pretty straightforward logic. But the high school GPA is actually a better predictor than a standardized test on success. And here's the scary thing. In Georgia high school, students that score above 600 on the SAT is only about 16%. Those that do it above the math, again, is almost 17%. UGA admitted students that had above a 600 on the verbal or the math, you can see almost 70% on the verbal side. 3/4 of them had above that. So it is a challenging environment. And again, I am grateful I am not in admissions. If you look at high school, where you rank in your high school, first year for incoming freshmen, top 25%. If you were in the top 20, you need to be in the top 25% of your class, because that represented 93% of the admitted students. You don't find many students that are not in the top 25% of their high school class. So when we talk to young people, we said you got to start early. That freshman year is more important than your senior year. My cousin's in racing. He told me, you cannot win the race on the first lap, but you can darn well lose it on the first lap. If anybody watched the Daytona 500, you can understand why. This is just admission trends for freshmen. Back in 2007, 55% that applied were admitted. And you can see we've been in the mid-50s. It's pretty consistent overall, so 1 out of 2. And then if you look at transfers, again, last year at the university it was 71. It was even a little bit higher for the college. So the college did get some benefits in transfer reviews. Our students do well, and I apologize, you cannot for the small font, but the median starting salaries of the college graduates are ranked third after engineering and the Terry School of Business. So our students demand and command a good starting salary in the marketplace. We are number one in the university for students who go to graduate and professional school. So students who come out of the college that go to vet med, or go to dental school, or medical school, or graduate school, a little bit over 25% of them go on for further education. That tells me those people are pretty smart. If they've got the ability, many times all they need is the opportunity. UGA Tifton, these are stats from Dr. Joe West, who runs the shop there in Tifton. 98% graduation rate. I will put that up against anybody in the state of Georgia. I don't know how you get a 98% graduation rate. When I went to school, they said on freshman orientation, look to your right and look to your left by Thanksgiving. One of you will be gone. And they were somewhat proud of that. We try not to run them off anymore. 96 job replacement within their field within 6 months. And the great thing about that is that it is a great hub for South Georgia. Here's a map that shows you where those graduates reside. And you can see the bulk of them are in South Georgia. That's where the opportunity for those degree programs are. So we're excited about Tifton. I didn't know about Tifton until I came here. It is a phenomenal resource for the state of Georgia. This is their growth. This is graduates and undergraduates combined. It is not huge. It is a modest number of students. It thankfully is going in the proper direction, despite the fact that there's some challenges because the undergraduate program at Tifton only is for the last 2 years. So we have to go out and find folks who've gone somewhere for 2 years and then have them transfer. Thank you for the resources you provided to renovate the TIF building. And a number of you have seen it. That is a great example of how to retain really high quality space in a historic building. So thank you for those resources that help us do that. And we're in the process right now. Some of you have visited the old Animal and Dairy Science building. It was built back in the late 30s. Folks, it needed some updating and improvements. Thank you for those resources. And that should be concluded before the end of this calendar year. UGA Griffin, we're unique in that we are 3 campuses. It is the original experiment station. In fact, we're coming up on a centennial, and we'll have a celebration there. Centennial also coming up in Tifton. Yeah. And I apologize, this is really small, but I will tell you, it shows you the 5 colleges that are available. Franklin is at Griffin, Terry College, of course, the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, Education, and Family and Consumer Sciences are located there. So we have a little bit different model in Griffin, 5 colleges, whereas in Tifton we only have 1. It's all College of Ag in Tifton. You look at their growth, and again, it's a little bit larger because there are 5 colleges. Lou Honeycutt, who runs the Griffin campus, and he actually reports to the provost as well. Lou likes to count the graduate students who do their work, and there are 32 graduate students currently in Griffin. And he claims them, so he said he's got 181 students, but in reality, those that are actually physically tied to the location is about 149. But he says they do their research there, their professors there, they may be actually tied to Athens, but he claims them. So they're a little bit bigger operation. So let me just close, and I apologize that is not supposed to be read, but it's green. So this is the closing line that I tell people all the time. Every time you're fed, I hope you'll thank somebody that wears Georgia red. So whether it was peanuts or soybeans or corn or chickens or cows, the folks who work at the college help make that possible every day. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer questions, Mr. Chairman, if you have time.
Thank you, Dean, for coming and bringing us up to date on that. I hope you ladies heard that it's easier to transfer than it is to get in. That's what I had to do. I wasn't smart enough to get in. Dean, the other thing I was thinking about while we're sitting here, the two representatives that represent your college are on the Ag Committee. So you got a lot of support that way, too.
Absolutely.
If any of you have any questions, who is number 7? Chuck?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Dean Pardue, thank you for being here. And for some of our newer members may not realize, I want to thank you. When you rolled into Georgia a year ago, if I'm not mistaken, you spent part of your first week on the job right here in this building, even almost before you got to your office in Connor Hall in Athens, meeting members of the legislature. And we appreciate your recognition of the great partnership that exists between this body and the college and the university. As you and I have talked, the issue about freshman admissions is an issue that is of keen interest to a lot of us, and certainly as an ABAC alum myself that chose to go to ABAC and then transfer to UGA, I recognize that dynamic, and certainly UGA is proud of its freshman admission numbers. That we see them trotted out every year, and the bar just keeps getting higher and higher and higher. At the same time, you know, as you alluded to, not all of our students that would be great students for the college and the university are in high school programs that maybe allow them that opportunity. I guess the question I would ask, you know, what can we do about it, or should we just quit gnashing our teeth so much and live with it and realize that, you know, that transfers are going to be sort of the way of the future for the college? What do you see the future there?
You know, I think I mentioned about 4-H and the fact that we impact nearly, over 175,000 students. You've got to start early in planting that seed in that young person's mind if they aspire to, first off, go to college, which I hope ultimately all of them will who want to go. But more importantly, if they want to come to the University of Georgia. You know, some of the programs in the college are unique that you cannot find anywhere else in the UGA, in the Georgia system. But I think we've got to start early, and particularly in middle school, in inspiring those young people to prepare themselves so they will be in position to be more competitive. And some of that, you know, just as far as setting goals, I'm amazed what the young people can do if they're given the tools and they're given the direction. So one of the things we're hoping to launch is a program that will utilize 4-H and FFA as a mechanism to talk to students. Some of our, you know, the saddest thing in the world is to be sitting in your office and there's a young person there who's a rising junior who says, you know, my dream has become to come to the University of Georgia and study agriculture. And oh, by the way, I have a 2.8 high school GPA. And I said, well, one door may be closing, but there's always that other door. So I think one of the things we've got to do is do a good job at educating. We've tried some things in the past at my former institution where we provided highly subsidized programs that help prep people for standardized tests, and there are some tricks to the trade on standardized tests. A couple of companies like Kaplan or Princeton Review. Now, some of the data says that all they do is take your money and it doesn't improve your scores. In our cases, we saw, you know, an average increase of around 75 points on the SAT, which sometimes is the difference between getting in and not. But one of the things I'll talk about later today at the Rural Caucus lunch, we need access to high-speed internet in rural Georgia.
Yep.
You can take AP classes online, but doggone it, you need to be able to get online and have it at a download speed that allows you to actually participate well. I remember my grandfather talking about in the 30s in the small town where he grew up, electricity coming to his house, rural electrification. We may need another program like that for high-speed internet. I talked with some good friends at AT&T. They says it costs between $18,000 and $40,000 a mile to put fiber optic cable in. And if you've only got 12 people per square mile in some counties, it's a tough economic model to see how that's going to be profitable. But I think we've got to start early. We've got to give people tools, and we've got to help capture that vision that we can get them into the University of Georgia.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dominic, are you three or is that Rick?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Dean Pardue. We appreciate you coming and spending some time with us. I'm going to make a few comments, but I'm going to pick on one of my constituents. Hannah Roberts is sitting right there behind you. And her dad, Randy Roberts, was a livestock ag extension agent. Her mom was one of my teachers in high school and basically the equivalent of home economics. And one of my concerns in rural Georgia, particularly South Georgia, when her dad was there, we had a couple of agents. I don't know that either there's not an appropriate formula for how we fund 4-H and all that they do. How many of y'all were involved in 4-H? And I'll tell you, these young ladies are going to be the ones that probably come back to rural Georgia, to home, to live next door to mom and daddy, I hope, and be the next generation of agriculture and ag education and all that. But so I talked to Miss Laura. I've had several conversations. Kevin Tatum is not just one of the best 4-H agents in the state, probably in the nation, but he is one of the finest men I know. And I trust what he tells me about how we're funding our ag agents. And I believe we need to relook at maybe some formula of how we do our cooperative extension things from what the county puts in, the state puts in, and the federal help. What I would like to see our agents do is more like what Mr. Randy used to do. He was actually an arm of outreach and community involvement and helping recruit new members into 4-H and FFA. Well, they're not out recruiting kids now because they don't have enough people to serve the ones they have. And so I guess to cut this short, one of the most powerful things I've ever seen is the night that Hannah retired her purple jacket over to her mom and dad. And I mean, I just got tore up about that. I was just couldn't believe. And I see the same thing happening in 4-H and FFA that is happening all across Georgia. You mentioned 86 counties losing population. By the year 2030, they project we'll have 4 million more Georgians and 96 counties are going to lose population. Well, let me tell you what that equals. Suffering in rural Georgia. Suffering in a $75 billion economic impact of this state every year, 33 billion of which is forestry. We better look at this more closely and take it more seriously. We can't wait until 2030 to decide to put money in that. And I know I got a champion for FFA and 4-H sitting right here. But I'll tell you what else he's got. He's got an ally that will absolutely not rest until Coffee County, one of the top 10 agricultural counties in the state, has the funding to continue to work with these young ladies and young men through 4-H and FFA. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else have any questions? I can't believe a retired county agent don't. Okay, Sam.
It's probably more of a statement than a question, but Dean, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. I'm so grateful for my education that I got from the College of Agriculture, and probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that. And also want to comment on extension. Some of these folks have heard me say this before, but I talk to my county agents almost sometimes more than I do my wife. And it's true. We just had and it happens so much. Even this past year, we had a virus that attacked our crop, and it was new, and nobody knew what to do. And if it wasn't for the research and extension side, agriculture would be in bad shape. So appreciate what you're doing on that side as well. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a product of rural North Carolina, and I realize the values and the quality of life. And there's great places. My daughter lives in Midtown, just 4 or 5 miles from here. But if we lose rural Georgia, we'll lose a lot more than just rural Georgia. Mm-hmm. And it's a passion of mine. I think it's something that we can collectively make a difference in. But I agree with you that you can't wait till 2030. The signs are already there.
Rick, and then whoever said me is over here.
I'm over here. Thank you, Dean Pardue. As Chairman said, I'm a retired county agent, and I appreciate what you said, Dominic. about the impact that these folks make. I'll just relay to you from the agents. I'm that little dip in 2010. You know, the one that went, pew, and fortunately it happened to me because I'm here now. But the attitude and I guess esprit de corps, whatever y'all call it, that's out there now is way up. And I credit that to you and Laura Perry Johnson out there working hard, working with individuals in a stressful situation, trying to do a lot, like Dominic said. And but I just, from that group, I'll tell you thank you.
Dean, if anybody has any questions they want to corner you on, will you hang around a minute?
I don't have anything to do till lunch.
To the young ladies from ABAC, thank y'all for coming. Gary, stand up. If you want to say anything to these young ladies or welcome them to your building across the street, I don't know if y'all all know Gary Black, who is the Commissioner of Agriculture, but we're glad you came to your second meeting.
We're gonna be together a little while later.
Okay.
Whatever y'all do, look forward to seeing y'all in the building. Mr. Chairman, two quick things. First of all, the extra exclamation point I put on Lotus yesterday is that's not the beginning of its demise. It's defeat, and that's something we ought to celebrate. And our good friend, I talked to him late last night, but President Duval was one of the president's invitees to watch the signing of that executive order yesterday. So that's a pretty good deal. I come to you and report to you that with a wonderful spirit of cooperation, we had a long meeting in Vidalia last night, and with almost an incredible amount of enthusiasm. Just the unity that was in the bottom. Y'all know what, I'm being a little facetious. We got lots of good friends down there, and they're friends of ours and y'all, but our Vidalia family sometimes is an interesting family to deal with. But this crop is way ahead. I mean, it's way ahead. And so we settled last night, it will move, the pack date will move forward from April 24th up to April 12th. So it'll be Tuesday, I believe that's Tuesday, April 12th, if that's correct. And so that's actually that's a good thing. And it's gonna let us hit the Easter, they can get the distribution centers and get for Easter Friday and Good Friday there, so that's a good thing. And Hannah, Representative Rick was talking about Hannah Roberts. I'm thankful for her, but right now, we're fortunate enough, my children live in a condo in Athens, and we're thankful we still have it. And as thankful as I am for Hannah Roberts, I'm more thankful for her sister, but she lives in my condo.
Thank you, Gary, for if y'all don't know what he's talking about with the Vidalias, they get together and decide, but the commissioner pulls the trigger on when they can start digging. So moving it back 2 weeks is, yeah, they get together and argue. But
The funny thing last night, and this is, it was, I wish we had it on video, but they kind of settled around and it said the 12th, and I stuck out my hands so fast, shoot, and they didn't know what to do. But it's gonna be good. And the crop, I'll tell you what, the Lord blesses us and keeps us safe between now and then. We have a crop like we've never seen before, if this quality maintains where it is right now.
and that'll be a big boost for Vidalia and Georgia and all of us that like onions. So a few quick things and then we'll adjourn. Cattleman's breakfast is Friday morning. PB&J Day is March the 20th. Ag Week starts the 20th. Is that right, Gary? Where the whole Ag Celebration Week. FFA Blue and Gold Gala is March the 10th. And today in 201, the dean will be over for a College of Ag lunch and rural caucus meeting, right, Sam? Has anybody got anything else?
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes, sir.
I hope everybody realizes what a great asset that Commissioner Black is to the state of Georgia. He reached out to me before I even came on board, and he has been a great partner. So I want to personally thank him.
Dean, thank you, sir. Appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come talk to us, and nobody has anything else. We adjourn, 'cause the rule starts in 8 minutes.